I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
You notice I said I'm Brent Leary before you actually brought your hand down?
That
It
was pretty
literally,
good.
yeah, maybe they're getting smarter about this thing. Anyway, we are the CRM players. It's a Thursday afternoon. The sun is out. It's actually 70 degrees here in Atlanta right now.
Oh, whoa. We're like 54 or something.
That's not
Gee.
bad.
No, but 70. That's like spring.
It's really good.
Huh.
I don't know how long that'll last, but
I'm
I'll cake
moving.
it for
I'm
as long
moving
as I can
down.
get
On my way.
it.
I'm going to take my headphones off and leave right now.
You might be able to make it for next week's show. Anyway, yeah, it's good to be back because we were off last week.
Yeah, we eating turkey or watching football or both, depending. Right?
I was doing both.
Yeah, me too. Me too. But I hate to say it, but the Cowboys game was actually a good game.
That was a great game,
Yeah, it
especially
really
the ending.
was. Yeah, no, I'm with you there too. But it was a genuinely good game. It's like that was the only football worth watching that day.
Well, my football went pretty much right down the toilet after that game. So,
I saw mine is
but
the same as it always is.
you know, college SEC football, big game this weekend. The Dogs are taking on Bama for the
Ooh.
SEC championship.
Oh, whoa.
It doesn't
I
get
didn't
any better
realize
than
that.
that.
That's Saturday. What time? Probably nighttime, I would
I think it's a
imagine.
night game.
Yeah, because it would
We
Mac
have
Jones.
an upset. Our first commenter of the day is not
Uh-oh.
Sven.
Does
It's
that mean
Christy.
that so wait, so now who's the underdog in the Georgia Bama game?
This year it's Bama.
So that means Bama will win because Christie pulled an upset and maybe they will.
Oh. But
Right.
like literally right after Sven
There
came
he
in.
is.
And at least I know what he's saying with
Christie.
this one.
Sven. Well, this one's easy. This is Spanish. That's a
Oh, look at
simple
Nitten.
one.
It
Yeah,
really
he's
is.
right. You're not
In
kidding,
the
man.
South, right down here, this may actually be more important than the national championship game.
That's a huge game. I'm going to be watching it. I'll tell you that. I am definitely watching that game.
Tell
And
you.
I'm not in the SEC. My team has gone to hell, so it doesn't matter. But that game will be amazing just to watch.
Usually you would give the nod to Bama, but not this year.
No, Georgia's absolutely unstoppable this year.
They haven't even been really challenged.
I know,
They'll
and
get challenged this time, but I don't know.
you
I
know,
think this is the Dogs' year.
on a linearly corollary note, um, I got to give, I got to give. I mean, I hate to say it because I'm almost saying something nice about the Patriots here, but Bama certainly
Let me stop
graduated.
you.
No, think about it. They graduated a very good rookie quarterback, Mac
Yeah, the
Jones.
best rookie quarterback.
Yeah, by a long shot. Really, he's like operating like a 5-year veteran already. He's really something to watch.
Yeah, I really hate to see that.
I
You
know,
know,
wrong team,
I mean, I
but
like Mac Jones
me
because I
too.
liked him in college, but I mean, of all the teams to go to,
Hmm.
well,
Exactly.
anyway.
I know, but he's damn good, boy. I'll tell you.
Yeah, I'm Mike Wilbon. He's Tony Cornell.
That's right. Although, again, I'm still making the argument that I'm Mike Wilbon because he was a Northwestern
That's
graduate,
right.
and so was I.
Look who it is.
Oh my God, Ginger!
It is one of our Playaz-in-Residence alumni.
Playaz-in-Residence alumni, original 4-horse person, um, right? And of course, resident intellectual at Genesis right now.
Ooh, I like that title.
Yeah,
I
well, she
think
is
I think you should get that title, Ginger. Resident. What was that thing you said?
resident intellectual at
Yeah,
Genesis.
that. Get that. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
with
there
you on
is
this
some
one,
amazing
Sven.
people in the chat.
Well,
Yeah,
we got it's probably because it's not because of us. I'll tell you that.
never because of us. No.
Liked Pat by transformational properties. What the hell does that mean?
You
I
know
think
who that
I
is.
understand. I think he means by osmosis more than transformational properties. But Ratul, hey man, how you doing,
Yay.
buddy?
I always like seeing his picture because I could never pull off that pink jacket look
Pink
and the
jacket,
green.
those what do you call the aqua turquoise-ish pants?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Hey Marco, how you doing, man?
Great
We
crowd
got what a
today.
crew. This is awesome.
Well, is it any surprise because of the guest that we have coming
That's what I'm
on?
saying. It isn't us. It's pretty obvious because if it was us, we'd be seeing most of these people all the time. But it's clearly
Ooh.
because of the guest. Here they are.
In other words, you just called out our host, guests or folks watching.
Hey,
You called them all out.
Reza, how you
Yeah.
doing, bud?
Man, I haven't talked to him in years.
I will tell you this. If people have any clue as to where most of the people who are, well, not most, let's call it a plurality of the people on this chat side work, they'll know who's probably on.
Well, he's probably worked at every company that all these folks have worked at one point in time.
That's true too, except for say like Rebecca, right?
Well, no, right.
We know he hasn't worked there.
It's nice to see the Playaz-in-Residence network in full force here. Really good.
It is awesome today.
Actually, it's kind of fitting.
Sven, I'll tell you what, Sven, you can mention blueberry bagels, but only if it's in other languages.
Yeah, we're going to stay away. We're going to create a blueberry free zone, bagel zone.
That's right, blueberry bagel free zone. Matt, you're the man. Yeah, right. Thanks for the what do they call those? Left-handed compliment. Thanks, Rebecca. A backhanded compliment. Thank you, not left-handed.
Although the left backhand of your left. Yeah.
Wait a minute. I don't know. Look, I still think my left brain's on the left side of my head, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, wow. Look who's here.
It brings down what average? What average are we talking about? The batting average? Wrong season, man. They're locked out.
All right.
They're locked out, dude.
Although my team is on
a
3-game losing streak, because of our guest for today, I broke out a brand new Ram garb. It's
wow,
black thing.
Ooh,
and
that's a nice one, actually.
And it actually has a nice little logo on the side. It matches the hat.
That's a full outdoor regalia thing. There he is. He did it. That's I want to guess it's like maybe Danish or Swedish. It's about blueberry bagels. Remember I said you have to talk about blueberry bagels in other. That's probably Bob going on Google Translate.
That makes sense.
I'll give me a break, Esteban. That doesn't bring the average IQ down.
This attempt at self-deprecating humor from Esteban
doesn't work. It doesn't work.
It ain't working.
No.
All right. We gotta get on with the show because before we bring in our guest, who I'm guessing people kind of know who it is.
Yeah.
I wanted to do a couple of shout outs. I wanted us to do a couple of shout outs. The first one.
Yeah.
Webio.
This is great.
And our buddy Paul Sweeney. They won the best use of an NAI. Oh, the best use of AI in a consumer customer service application. Webio. And this is an award given to, it's an Irish organization because the company is based out of Ireland. Yeah. But best use of AI in a consumer customer service application. All right.
These guys, they're conversational AI company. They are brilliant. And Paul himself is just a rock star and a half, this guy. I'll tell you, you want a guy who belongs on an international stage, you're looking at him, man. Paul
You know what?
Sweeney.
I looked at this and I was like, "Where's Paul?" And then I realized that's him. He's shaved. He
Yeah,
does. He just looks different.
yeah, he does. He
I didn't
also
realize how
looks
tall he
taller.
was too.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
looks taller. I actually met him in Dublin in 2017. We had like coffee at a hotel we were at the Fitz. What was it called? I'm blocking the name of the hotel. Fitzwilliam Hotel, which is a great hotel. And we had coffee there. And he's fantastic. This guy,
Margot,
Margot.
nice to see you.
Yay!
No knitting.
Yay!
Nobody said that.
No,
Nobody.
somebody said it in Norwegian.
That's Bob
That
again,
was-
trying to show
Yeah,
off.
there we go. It was Bob in Norwegian. Well, it's Google Translate. I'm pretty
I
sure.
guess we got to say that's Bob Fagel because there's multiple
No,
Bobs involved here.
That's
So,
right. The many
Ugh.
Bobs.
I make sure everybody's accounted for correctly. All right. One more shout out before I do that. I don't know if you saw this. I just literally saw this right before we came on. This one here. Wait a minute. How am I doing this? Kind of lost track. Where am I here? Look at this.
No.
Sales Executive of the Year in 2021. Our
That's
very
him.
own graduate
Jamie,
of the CRM Playaz-in-Residence program, Jamie Anderson.
that is not only is that appropriate, but it's so indicative of this program, how we help nurture these young rookies and educate them till they
That's right.
become great. You know, young rookies like Rebecca, who's only been around for what, 18, 20 years, right? And right, and Jamie, of course, who had no history before he was a player in residence, other than
Yeah.
CMO of SAP CX and
Matter of fact,
yeah, and
when
currently
I,
chief CSO of Exactly.
right.
So
When I saw this posted on LinkedIn, I did leave a comment saying, I'm not saying that you got this distinction because you are a player in residence, but I'm not saying it either. There it is.
wow, so congrats,
really cool.
Jamie. Woohoo.
You know, that's a testament to the player in residence program, isn't it? Don't you think?
Of course. Well, ultimately, as far as I'm concerned, we can take credit for anything we want.
Well, and on that note, let's take credit for having our next guest join us right now. And as I usually like to do, I like to turn it over to Mr. Paul Greenberg to do the intro.
I don't even know if we need to at this point with this guy, man. I mean, this is, of course, Mr. Bob Stutz, right? And let's just say this. His legend precedes him, as we well know. And not only that, he's been on the show as many or more times than any other guest we've ever had, and is always one of the best listened to favorites of everybody, because as we all know, he is not only an industry pioneer who has pretty much driven the CRM industry, created the technology for the industry. And you can actually, and I've said this before, you can make a really good case that if he didn't do what he did back in the days of Siebel, there would be no CRM technology industry, right? And so
let me put it,
go ahead.
Let me say it like this. If he didn't do what he did, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing right now.
Well, that's a perfectly good way to put it. And,
Yeah.
and the other thing about him is, well, two things. One, which is not new, which is speaks his mind regardless of any employer he ever is with. And number two, which goes right to the heart of that, is he's currently not with an employer because he officially on November 15th announced his retirement. Now, we'll find out, I'm sure, what that means in the course of this show. The word retirement and Bob Stutz are not words that are associated with each other very often. So with that, let's just bring on this madman.
There he
is. with no gear. You have no gear.
Can you
All
hear
no
us?
buff. Can you hear us?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can you hear
absolutely.
us? Can you hear us?
Yep.
Okay.
Perfectly.
Where's your
There it
Where's your
is.
Bills gear, man?
I'm trying to clean up my act a little bit here, right? You know.
Is this in retirement? That why you're not wearing? You retired from the Bills?
Yeah,
Well, you know,
that's the thing.
I still have till the end of December, right? December 31st is my official sort of retirement, right?
Right. Now you're a
Nice.
consulting something. Right. That's the
I'm
job, is
enjoying
consulting
life.
something. Right.
I'm enjoying life.
Yeah. I mean, you
Well, you
can't go
look
wrong
good.
with. You do. You look happy. And you know what? It's good. It's now finally you can take off the bridge guard from your mouth and can speak freely like you've never done that before, right? About all things now that you have nobody shackling you.
Wait a minute. He was shackled before because it didn't
That's what
really
I'm
feel
saying.
like it back then.
Oh,
Yeah,
I think you've only
I don't
heard
think
it.
I've ever been. I don't think I've ever been shackled, right? You know.
No, that is literally the last thing ever.
Hey, I wanted to say one quick thing about the Bills. Because back at the beginning of the season, let's see if I got this ready. There was a prediction about who was going to be in the Super Bowl and who was going to win the Super Bowl. And let me see if I can bring this up. And so that was Peter King's prediction at the beginning of the year. I am now bowing out of that. We're done. We're toast. 3 losses in a row. We look terrible. Every time we sign a new person, we get worse. So I'm done. But Bob, are you done? Do you think the Bills are actually going to make it?
I'm hoping. I'm hoping. But you know, I have to say, as much as I hate to say it, New England has come on strong, and unfortunately, I think it's going to be a tight race for the division championship, and to see who comes out on top. It will be either the Bills or the Patriots. I'm hoping it's the Bills.
Let's say this. I'm just hoping we don't end up in last place.
But in all honesty, I do have to say the Rams really sucked last week against Green Bay.
Yeah,
that was a pretty.
They sucked
crappy.
even more the week before against the Niners and against the Titans the week before that. So yeah, I have nothing to say. Thanks, folks, and good night. No,
it was great having you, Bob. We'll talk to you later.
All right, let's talk. I was going to say serious, but he's just there now. He's the man. So how's it feel to kind of be already done, but not quite there yet?
It's a good feeling, you know. It's you know, I think it's always interesting, right? When you're going full speed for so long, and then all of a sudden you have to change gears, and you have to slow down, and you have to sort of think about what's next, and like, how do you keep yourself busy besides shoveling freaking snow all the time, which, you know, is it's one of the joys of living where I live, which is, you know, we had a couple meters of snow over the last
You're
week.
saying meters now?
I know.
Yeah,
You know, you
meters,
still were
you know.
born here, right? And we're still on that other system, whatever, Imperial.
Yeah,
Right,
no,
we're not
I'm more on the other
meters.
system nowadays. You know, it's easier, right? You know,
And wait a minute,
but
Buffalo, lots of snow. You should
yeah,
be kind of.
it's where I grew up in Buffalo, and Buffalo was no different, right? You know, and so I'm used to it. It's fine. It's good. You know, but yeah, no, I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of research. And just trying to figure out what's next at the end of the day.
Do you have any ideas on that yet that you're willing to divulge? We certainly have some for you, of course, but
I'm working on some. to be announced later in January.
Okay, that works. So so maybe we should get to kind of all the news of the day. What do you think, Mr. Bleary? All right.
Well,
You
all
wanna-
right, let's do it. Because
All
there
right.
was some big news that just came up. Was that just yesterday?
I don't. You know what? I am
Feels
so
like so long
blurred on
ago.
this. I have no clue.
Well,
It was
recently.
this week.
We'll just say
This
recently.
week.
This week. So Salesforce announced they have a new co-CEO arrangement with Brett Taylor becoming the co-CEO. And on the same day that was announced, it was also announced that Brett Taylor is going to be the chairman of the board for Twitter. Just give us whatever thoughts you have on both of those developments.
Yeah, no, actually, I was just texting with Brett a little while ago. Actually, look, he's a super smart guy, and I think look, he's the future of technology for Salesforce, right? I mean, he is the guy that has to really, I think, take them to the next level because look, the reality is if you look at where Salesforce is on a maturity curve, they're at the top of that maturity curve, right? And one could argue that maybe they've started the decline on the maturity curve, right? And so the reinvent cycle has to happen, right? They have to reinvent themselves. They have to diversify. And I think, look, Brett is the right guy. He's the guy to take them to different things, to new things, and I think he's, and look, him becoming chairman of Twitter, I think is just, it's just another, clear indication of his ability as a person, as a technician, I mean, look, he's a bright software guy. And I think, he's on a whole nother level, to be quite honest. And, and I think, I think it's a great choice by Mark. I think it's no surprise to anybody that was coming,
No.
and it's a good balance. I mean, it is truly a good balance at the end of the day. And I think the co-CEO thing will work really well.
Well, I know
that question keeps coming up. Do you think this leads to
I'll stop. What do you think of that?
Yeah.
I know what I think.
About what?
Look at the comment.
Do you think Twitter will get bought by Salesforce at this point?
My personal feeling is no.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And I'll tell you why. Years ago, I would have said yes, only because, I think Salesforce needed this communications backbone. But now that they've acquired Slack, there's no reason to acquire Twitter at the end of the day.
Interesting.
I agree with you at this point. And I it's funny. It's just kind of how the industry works. Though one person has same person has two positions at two companies, and everybody decides that means both of those companies are coming together because of that. So, if I decide, hey Brent, if you sit on a board of advisors of any company, that means CRM Playaz has to buy it. Whatever it is.
Good.
All right.
It's actually sort of a conflict of interest, right? So it's really not something that you would expect to see happen.
No.
I mean, you have to keep both things very separate at the end of the day. And to be perfectly honest, I just couldn't even imagine why you would acquire Twitter at this juncture when you've just acquired Slack and you have a better communication platform, right? That you can definitely, tie all your customers together using, right? So it wouldn't make sense to me, actually, for them to go and do something like that.
I agree. So so what about this? This is just a broader general question. Now that you pretty well worked for pretty much every major company at some point or another, reinventing them basically. in almost every case. And now we have the industry is moving quickly. Let's say the market is changing pretty dramatically because of the nature of the people who are making decisions. The players are shifting. So you're seeing, 3 years ago or 4 years ago, let's say, it was the big four. Then Adobe came in, and from our ratings, it was big 4.5, big 4.8, and big 5. Now we can arguably make a case. This is a big part. I'm announcing this today, Brent. I forgot to tell you. There's a big 4.5 roughly, which is ServiceNow is starting to really ascend.
5.5.
Yeah, I say 5.5, not 6 yet. They got a ways to go to 6, but the market and that's the big scale companies. And then you have littler companies, say like, I'm sort of picking off the top of my head, so don't read anything into this, but companies like, say, Contentful or Kaltura or others who produce really good technologies, have a really good leadership team, but are still small, but are having impact in kind of localized ways. And who do you see as kind of, obviously Salesforce is the alpha now, but nothing lasts forever. Okay, so the question is, I'm picking an arbitrary date, but 3 years from now, how do you see this market looking, the whole thing, and name companies, in terms of what you see them doing and the whole thing?
Yeah, I think, look, Salesforce is definitely the alpha, right? But I don't think any of the players that are in the space today will be the ones to be the disruptor of the alpha at the end of the day.
Okay.
I really don't. I don't see it. Look, a lot of them have great technology. They have good products, but I don't see them as really being disruptive. That could totally disrupt Salesforce's flow in business at the end of the day, right?
So does that mean Salesforce in 3 years will still be at the alpha, or does that mean somebody we don't recognize?
I've always had this philosophy that I believe that companies like when they get too successful and they continue, there's only so much headroom in this business, right? And at some juncture, you start to you sort of start to tap out on the horizontal side, right? And you have to take that industry side and make it much bigger, much deeper, and I do believe that now with the team that Salesforce has, they have an opportunity to do that, right? They, with David and Jujar, I think there is an opportunity there to do that. But that means something very different for Salesforce that they've never really done, which is depth in functionality. Salesforce has always been very good at sort of the big breadth of functionality, but Salesforce has never really been known for its depth in functionality at the end of the day. And I think that's a piece that, when you go when you have such a big breadth, right? Historically, what you would do is at some juncture, you have to decide that you have to go deep, right? And you can't just, it can't all be about configuration. It can't all be about, you have to at some juncture bite the bullet and start going deep, which, by the way, it has a whole nother context to it when that happens. And I think, guys like David Schmeier know that very well, what the downside of that is at the end of the day. There is an upside, but there's also quite a downside when you start going deep, especially on the industry side. You have to be very careful. Otherwise you get sucked down this, what I call the micro vertical hell, right? Which is, you can start out at this macro level in verticals, but you can get sucked down very quickly into this micro level. And every time you go down that path, you have to remember you're going to support that stuff forever and ever and ever. And I think, I think a lot of the companies in the space today I think they're all in the same place, which is they're supporting a lot of legacy.
Yep.
And at some juncture, I think, one of them has to be the brave one to sort of shed the legacy and reinvent themselves. And let's be very clear, in this business, there's not been many companies that have been capable of doing that at the end of the day. Many companies have tried. I think, if I look at Microsoft's done a good job over the last years in sort of reinventing themselves. And, they were an operating system company that has now totally, the operating system is just another piece of the arsenal. It's not their primary, and I think they've done a good job of really shifting away from that and making that transition. I think at some juncture, Salesforce has to figure out what the next transition is and what it looks like and how they do it. I think, if I look at all the players in the space, I think, I'm disappointed by some, like Sugar. I had hoped that Sugar would have come much farther than it did. But to be perfectly honest, I don't see them as a player in this space anymore. I think they've just not moved the way they should have moved, I think, and and I've been a huge fan of them ever since the beginning.
Yep.
And I just think that they've wasted too many years. And they're not, they had a chance, I think, to reinvent themselves, but instead they play the Me Too game again. And I think the problem is when you play the Me Too game, it's tough, right? Look, let's be clear. Everybody makes money in this business, right? So it doesn't matter, right? You can keep shoveling the same shit that you've been shoveling for the last 5 years and nobody cares at the end of the day. Customers are still going to buy it. You're still going to make money at the end of the day, right? This is a cash cow business, right? Let's be clear, right? But the reality is at some juncture, and I do believe this, there will be a company that comes along, a new startup type company that really does look at this in a very different way, right? And is not hindered by all the legacy that they have to carry forward, right? And I think that is what you will see over the next 2 to 5 years, is you'll start to see these companies start to spring up, right? Because the industry, look, the call it CX, call it CRM, it's all the same thing at the end of the day. The reality is that it's a ripe industry for disruption. Because if you really look at the players in the space across all of them, how much differentiation is there really in a lot of them, right? Not a whole lot, right? I mean, look, processes are processes. Some do it a little different than others, but ultimately they all do the same thing, right? Some have better marketing and sales than others, right? And they make it look more glamorous, right? But at the end of the day, SFA is still SFA, service is still service. And basically all the companies still pretty much have the same stuff at the end of the day. Some a little better than others, right?
The one probably a little different, and it's a little, but is of the big 5.5, that is Adobe, because they have the content creation tools on the front end, which nobody really has beyond them. So that's the one that, and they're a little differently focused, I think, than the other 5 are. But I agree.
Yeah, and then you mentioned ServiceNow, but I mean, look, I think ServiceNow does some really nice stuff at the end of the day, and I think I think they've made a good niche for themselves, especially in cloud operations and being able to handle tickets and stuff like that. But I mean, you have to have more than just that at the end of the day, right? Look, it's not a bad platform. To be perfectly honest, it's a good platform, but I don't see them as being a player. Look, they've made good headway. They're making great money. They're moving forward, right? Especially in the IT space, right? Which is where they really, I think they play quite a bit. But I don't see them overtaking or disrupting a Salesforce or really any of the sort of that core CX CRM space. I just don't see it happening at the end of the day.
Yeah, and in their case, I don't think they necessarily see themselves that way either. Really, they're your old buddy actually, Bill McDermott. He actually he they're very ambitious. I mean, to their credit, they want to be platform of platforms. And there was an informal discussion among analysts at some point. I don't remember, right after they kind of announced it and did a summit, and they showed everybody a game plan. The question that got asked of analysts among themselves was, do you think they could potentially do it? And the general consensus was, yeah, they have a shot, right? Not that it's definitive, but that they have a real shot at doing it, which would make them, again, a different type of company, but they would be less competitive with Salesforce than more competitive.
Yeah, let me just say it a different way. I don't see
yeah.
them taking market share from Salesforce.
I agree with
you. In anything, right? I mean, look, I think they're in a separate space. I think they coexist in a lot of companies. They'll coexist with Salesforce, with SAP, with the Dynamics, with all the CRM platforms out there, right? They do coexist, and in some cases they work very well together in the IT space, right? And so, but I don't see them taking market share from any of those players at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think their mission has changed a lot to their. I like them. I actually really do, and I actually
look.
I
like them, and I like I think marrying workflow with business process. The stuff they're doing with Celonis is very interesting, right? I think there's a lot of merit in that at the end of the day. Similar to the same stuff that that SAP is doing, with business process and with S4 and with CRM. Look, there's a lot of merit in that, tying those two together, right? It's just another sort of way to make a CRM system more valuable at the end of the day.
Yeah, fair.
Hey, I wanted to. We got a lot of comments and questions coming in. I want to go to one from our buddy Ray Gerber, if I can find it. I mean, literally, there's so many that came in over the last couple of minutes. I lost track of where it was. All right, here it is. So basically, Ray is asking about what went into determining your replacement now that you're leaving SAP.
That's really up to them at the end of the day. I mean, look, I made it known early in the year that I wanted to retire at the end of the year, which was well known actually, even from the very beginning when I agreed to take the job. Right, was that 2 years was pretty much what I had said that I could do, because I knew I was going to be 65 this year, and even though I'm young and I don't feel like 65. I don't think I'm 65, except for when I shovel that freaking snow. Then I really do feel like I'm 65 at the end of the day.
Come move to Virginia, man. We don't get snow here.
But no, I think, look, it was up to them and what they're doing. And, there's a new business model, right, which is that they've put in place, which is this 3-in-a-box model, which you hear them talk about. And I think it's good. It's, they have to do what's right, what they think is the right thing to do at the end of the day. And I'm very supportive of that. Look, I've loved the company. It's always been a great place, and it's been near and dear to my heart. Otherwise I wouldn't have come back a second time. It's not something I typically do. But I think, look, I think the industry has to change. Companies are changing, I think people have to look at things different ways, and, and look, I think they did what they felt was the right thing to do, which I'm supportive of at the end of the day.
Although I don't know. I just 3 in a box does not. I don't like that name. I really don't. It really sounds like.
Yeah,
You know what?
really, I know it
No,
has a
I don't
weird.
mind the model. I just don't like what it sounds like.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
went
I don't
through the
mind
hard
the
way, or
3 in a box literally sounds like a constrained model for leadership, right? I mean, by the title they gave it. And given my current inclination with all this, geeky stuff I do, I think I would have just called it a tripod model. That would, that would probably be best. Just not 3 in a box. I get the model and I understand it's co-leadership and it's not a terrible model at all. I mean, it could potentially work. Yeah,
no,
but
and
those kind of models.
you have Samir in there, and
Yeah, well, yeah, of course.
and Jen, who just came over from Amazon, who I think is great, and I think I think look, companies have to do what they need to do to really get things to work for them, and I think what Christian's done in the company and how he's moved it forward in a very different way, and what he's trying to do, I think is all the right stuff at the end of the day, and for me, it's just it was time. It was time to sort of take a step back, do something different, and sort of take a break. I needed a break. I've been doing turnarounds for such a long time that it's it sort of gets to the point that after every one of these, it takes a little bit out of you.
Mhm.
And and this time I had promised I would never do another one. Now I don't know how long that will stick, but
what if Oracle called you? They're the only ones left.
nah, no way. Nah.
ServiceNow, they'll call you.
I'd rather shovel snow for a living at the end of the day.
I got a quick one. I think it was last week in Business Insider, something like that, where they said that back in the summertime, Amazon/AWS had pondered the thought of acquiring HubSpot. And it was it was an internal conversation. It was brought up from folks that are, I don't know. I don't want to get too specific because I don't want to be wrong, but Amazon has a marketing automation tool called Pinpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like it was from the group that was working in that area that said, we probably need to look outside if we want to be players in this space. Now, of course, they didn't make the move, but what if they had made the move? What do you think the impact on the industry would have been if a company like Amazon had acquired a company like HubSpot and came together in some force?
I think you have to flip it another way and say, when it's not your core competency, can you really be successful at it at the end of the day, right? And let me just give you a good example of that. Look, I'm a huge fan of Microsoft. I love Microsoft. I love Satya. I think he's done a phenomenal job. But let's be clear, business applications is not a core business at the end of the day for them.
Tiny little $4 billion business.
It's a side business at the end of the day, right? And the reality is with Amazon, how big of a business could it really be at the end of the day? And you have to change how you think about things, right? Look, to just continue to stay competitive in the cloud space, the amount of money that has to get poured into that just to stay competitive, to constantly be innovating and thinking, which AWS is great at on the innovation side. But once you decide to go into the business application space, I think the thing that companies never really fully understand when they decide to make that move is that it's not a one and done deal. If you want to be successful in this space, it means you have to spend a lot of money at the end of the day. And it means you have to constantly acquire, right? And that's where I give kudos to Salesforce at the end of the day, because look, the reason they've grown and gotten as big as they have is because, look, they're not afraid to take the risks and go out there and spend God knows how much. I think the last number as well. The last one I saw was like 76 billion in acquisitions. They've made God knows how many, right? You know, and you have to say, like, look, it's expensive to be in the business application space. It's not a one and done deal. And I think this is where companies, I think, fully don't understand that to stay competitive in this business, you have to spend a lot of money, not just organically, but inorganically. And by the way, the bigger you get, the more legacy you have to carry, which means that a lot of your internal development force is spent on legacy crap, moving it forward, updating it. And you have to acquire those companies to come in with new talent. And they're the ones that drive the innovation forward at the end of the day, right? Look at Slack in Salesforce. Like, Slack is the next innovation wave for Salesforce, right? And you can see that coming, right? And I think, you know, that's the thing that a lot of big companies don't understand is, like, the entry into this space is not cheap at the end of the day. And look, I think AWS many times over the years has debated, right? I think even there were rumors years ago, they debated going into the CRM space. You know, which would have been a natural at that juncture, actually, to be quite honest, if they had done it back when the rumors first started, would have probably not been a bad deal for them. But I think now, if you look at what they're competing with, right? Think about who they have to compete with, right? They're competing with Microsoft. They're competing with Google, right? And it's tough, right? You want to stay number one in that space. Well, you're going to pour every bit of investment you have into innovating and making the acquisitions that you need to make to stay at number one, right? But I think, you know, I think a lot of companies underestimate what it takes to actually be in the business application space. And you know, it's not easy at the end of the day, right? It's costly, it's expensive, and you know, in HubSpot, I mean, look, I think there would have, if you're going to go very big at the end of the day, right? Look, HubSpot's a great product, and I'm a huge fan of their stuff, but it would not have been the one that I would have gone for at the end of the day if I was going to really make a play, right?
So we got to ask now, who would you have gone for?
I mean,
Marketo.
Hypothetically, if you were to think of the perfect match there, right? You would say, especially given their partnership, it would be Salesforce and AWS at the end of the day, especially with the partnership that they have, right? You know, I think if you're going to go big, then go big, go to win, right? You know, because you can't just be in the space to play. It's too expensive at the end of the day. And if you want to win, then you have to go big, right? And that's what I would say to anybody at the end of the day who asks me, right? If you want to go big, right?
You know, to that point, it's interesting. I guess something must have been, I didn't attend reInvent, but something must have been said there, because since reInvent began, I've had 4 individual, completely unrelated, meaning they don't know each other, people don't know each other, inquiries about AWS Connect and CRM. 4 different ones. And 2 of them were from Salesforce execs. One and the other 2 were just independent execs of different companies. But I'm getting the idea something must have been done or said at reInvent that triggered that, because that was a really strange line of inquiries to get. And one of them was, one of the execs actually mentioned, the Salesforce guys mentioned, we're already partnering with them, but I'm wondering, he said, how much you think they want to get into the space. And his location, he located it around sort of a slightly specific slice around contact centers. But it was even more specific than that, but I don't remember all the details. It was fairly extensive, but it was contact centers with a focus. which would be the obvious kind of immediate way of looking at it. But I just found it interesting that the interest rose so quickly on the heels of reInvent. And because I mean, Larry Augustine is no longer at AWS Connect, but he and I had talked a couple of times while he was running it. And they're kind of, to your point about Microsoft and business apps, the way they've treated business apps is pretty much the same. They haven't really seen it as a major business. They've seen it as a useful addition to, in the same way Microsoft really does in some regard, a useful way of getting, in their case, AWS, and Microsoft's case, Azure, out there. And IaaS as the foundation of what they can do. So it became, in effect, a sales tool, for in effect, not literally, but that's what I'm saying. It's kind of interesting that the approach, I think both Microsoft and Amazon take is pretty similar. That ultimately their cash cows are, aside from Amazon's general cash cow, their enterprise tech cash cow is AWS, and Microsoft's is Azure. So, and that's what they're really pushing. So I think you're right. And, at the same time, I do think there's some viability to what Esteban said, which is there will be some sort of acquisition, at least, because the one thing that's weird, and maybe you comment on this too. There's way too much. I mean, I understand why, but there's way too much attention spent on optics in our universe. And one of the optics is, do you own an asset that can show that you're a player in this area, even if you're not and don't really want to be, but sort of need to be because people are looking for you to be. And it really goes against your better sense to do it. And there's that too, which is the other side of it, because of the fundamental point from your standpoint, of course, is you want to play in this area, and especially the customer facing technology area. You're just going to be spending a fortune for the rest of your life. Right. So
you're better off. And I think companies like AWS and Microsoft does it already, and so does AWS. But I think the key for those guys is really finding the next innovation of applications around the data, right? Because that's really their strong point at the end of the day. The amount of data that they have and that they can harvest and do so many different things with, right? That's where, if I was them, I would really be focusing on how do I build that next set of cool data applications, right? That really can make, customers want to come to me, right? Because I can show them things with their data that they never believed were even possible at the end of the day, right? And I think, that should be where the focus should be for them at the end of the day, and not on business applications per se, right? And I do believe that the shift in this business will be, it's funny. And I was talking with somebody about this the other day, when Siebel started, and I think you have to really and that's why I say I think history always repeats itself in this industry, which was, Siebel was a data first application. It was from the data layer up and not from the UX down, which some of the other ones like Salesforce and stuff were built, right? Siebel was really the first serious data layer. Right. And it's interesting because there's even customers today who still use that database.
Oh, I know.
As the center of what they do. Right. And I think, now the shift, people went away from that data layer to the UX and all that great stuff, which had to happen anyways, because, but I think now the next realm of new systems will be data first. And I think they will be built from that data layer up and not the opposite way around, like what's happened in the industry for quite a while. And I do think, look, data is all important. And that's why I think CDPs are so critical, because I do think and I do think CDP is a transitional sort of thing, right? I think it will morph itself into a much more complex data layer than anyone ever thought possible. And that will be the basis for building applications at the end of the day. And I truly do believe that, actually.
Wow. Do you believe we're already at the hitting the top of the hour? And we did say, kind of tease that we had an announcement we're going to do today. Paul, you want to tee it up?
Do you want me to actually make the announcement?
You're good at that.
All right.
I would say yes.
Well, Bob's not only here as like a brilliant talking head today, right? He's here for his full-bodied experience. And what we are doing, as all of you know, as of now, and as Brent talked earlier, we have a program called the Playaz-in-Residence. And that program has graduated some amazing people. First one was Brian Solis. And Bob, this is your ticket back into the enterprise. I just want you to know.
Just what he wanted.
Yeah, I know. So, I mean, almost everybody. So let me say this. In the illustrious history of it, most everybody has gotten a job at a tech company as soon as they've joined the program. So right now, the current two are Anand Thakur and Rebecca Wedeman, who you both, everyone out there knows and have seen many times on the show. But we'd like to announce today that Mr. Stutz has agreed to become a Playaz-in-Residence. And welcome to the program, man. That means a regular event. We will be seeing Mr. Stutz on the executive roundtables, on the watch parties, on a semi-monthly cadence of show appearances, and there are other things pending, but we'll get to them some other time. But right now,
autograph signings.
That's right. We will start the tour. Right, the tour will start. The tour will start in Buffalo. Of course, we have to start at home base, and then we'll go from there. Right. So we're gonna have the first signing will be what's his name? Josh Allen and Bob Stutz.
Wow.
Josh,
there it is.
But that's so Bob is welcome, sir.
Welcome aboard.
So happy to have you.
Thanks.
Great. Are you kidding? That's so awesome. And so much you've already pretty much done what you do, and that's all you have to do, and that's what makes it so much better for us. We're just thrilled to death. So Bob becomes number 3. There is no actual order here, but we have 3. So it's Anand Thakur, Rebecca Wedeman, and Bob Stutz, Playaz-in-Residence. And again, Brian Solis went to Salesforce. Ginger Conlon went to Genesis.
Jamie
Anderson went to exactly. Nicole France went to Contentful. So Bob, get ready to go to Oracle.
Where do you want to go?
Just get ready to go to Oracle.
Bob ain't going anywhere. Bob's already been everywhere. I don't need to go anywhere anymore.
Well, technically you've been at Oracle, given that Siebel has been acquired by Oracle a long time ago. So you've sort of covered the ground.
Esteban is congratulating you.
And he's congratulating you on your new job.
All right. I'm just, it's really cool. And you can now feel free to just say it the way you want. You don't have to hold back anymore.
That's right. That's right. Release the shackles. Take them away.
Awesome.
That is great.
All right.
Thank you, John. All right.
So thanks, guys. I appreciate it. It's always fun being with you guys.
Well, you also now, the real privilege you have is you get to sign off with us today.
Oh, wow.
So
it's official. It is official right now as of this moment. Okay.
Right. So you get to sign off with us, which is a pretty big deal. I want you to know.
It is? Okay. All right. So
follow our lead. Okay.
So here it is.
Seeing I'm the only one with a really winning football team this year.
Oh, man.
I've had losing football teams for so long that doesn't even bother me.
Can we take this thing back? I mean, I don't know if I can. All right. I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
Bob Stutz.
Wow, he fit it in right in there.
Man.
We
You
are
did
the
it.
CRM Players, and I'm looking for one thing before we can end the show.
There it is. And we are out.